Okay, this is the 1988 Lincoln Mark VII Bill Blass edition with the sunroof option, and sunroof has been removed. The need was to replace this trim around the edge of the sunroof. The original J-channel had started to deteriorate, and somebody had, where it was attached, put a piece of just rectangular weather stripping on it. So I ordered a part from the sunroof doctor, and I thought it was like the original J-channel. It turned out it wasn't. The original piece, I thought it would be glued on, but it turns out it was only stapled on this side, right about here. Staple where it began and staple where it ended. And so it came off rather easily. It had deteriorated quite a bit. This piece came with two-sided tape, and you peel the liner off of it and stick it on like this. And originally I thought that wasn't going to do, and credit to the sunroof doctor, they'd agreed to take the piece back because it wasn't what I was expecting to receive, but I thought it's not that much money, let's try it anyways, and it's turned out to be quite a good solution. I was pleasantly surprised. I was thinking of staying more stock if I could, but the reality is the stock solution is not a very good one, so that's on there now. But to get the sunroof out, I put it in the lifted position, which I will do again. These tabs here come up, and unscrewed it. That's where the problem really started in terms of putting the sunroof back together. I'll show you what that is over here. So this is the actual slide that goes into that track, and as you can see, it's made out of plastic, and there are 3 screws. Unfortunately, you would think they would have done something like brass screws so they wouldn't corrode, but this is the condition of the screw as I took it out. And these screws, quite deteriorated, quite rusty, screw into this metal insert that's threaded, like so. And of course, when I went to undo the screws, they simply turned this and ripped it in the plastic where it sits, which would be right where that hole is. So instead of unscrewing, it simply ripped this out of the plastic, which made this unusable. And of course the plastic was old and cracked, and so it literally came apart in several pieces. Now, that's frustrating enough as it is. There's a metal piece at the start of the slide, and we're going to use that to replicate this. But as frustrating as that is, this part can no longer be found anywhere. A parts match from the original Ford part number, which you might be able to see inside the plastic there, renders no results. And when you go to the exploded diagram of the sunroof for this car, listed by some of the auto parts shops on the web, at least the ones I could find, they all have the wrong diagram and the wrong part. This is the original part, and it's not what shows up in those diagrams. So this slider, the option would be to find a donor car and take it out, although I suspect it would be pretty much in the same shape in any car that's 30 years old. So the goal, well, I guess it would be 26 years old, but the goal here for me then is to find a way to come up with a solution to replace this without ripping apart another Lincoln somewhere at a wreckers, to see if I can actually find one of these that's not going to be in just as bad a shape. So my plan, and what I think Ford should have done in the first place, is to extend this metal bracket all the way up the side of this, put the holes in it, and screw it back in. So to do that, I'm going to have to manufacture something. So my first thought is to use a steel drawer glide, because it's pretty close to the same shape. I can cut it down to fit and work with the metal, and we'll see what that turns out like. The other thing I want to show you here, now that I've disassembled everything, is when I pulled the insert for the sunroof out, the cloth had come away and it was in pretty bad shape. Oddly enough, the rest of the headliner was great. It's just on the slider that goes inside the sunroof, and so this surface, this metal surface, they had a glue that basically crumbled when you put your fingers on it. Looked like some sort of old appliance cement or something. So I've cleaned it off and prepared the surface as well as I can by simply scraping it with a metal scraper, like so, and then using some metal polish to clean off the surface. You can see in here, I haven't done that yet, and you can see that that's what it was like. So what I'm going to do is, I've used LePage's spray cement before on things like pool table felt, and it's really held very well, so I'm going to try that out. And I've got, instead of the cloth, which was very thin, a very durable piece of marine vinyl as close to the same color as I could get. It's pretty hard to tell them apart side by side. So I'm going to cut this to fit, glue it onto this panel, and then the slider will actually, I'm hoping, look a little better and stay on, and we'll replace that inside the car. So those are the tasks at hand. I'll take some more images as we progress. Okay, so this is the plate that the sunroof slider goes on, and this is the original cloth. So what we've done is cleaned off most of the original glue. It was pretty much something you rub off with your finger, but we've cleaned off, and as you can see, there's these sliders down in the corner that are pieces of plastic there, which normally go around the edge like that. I don't think it was that hard to move up anyways. And they're riveted in place. There's no need really to remove those. What I'm going to do is cut the replacement material around it and then slide that over the edge. And up top here, there's a plastic slider as well, which is riveted on the back plate. So I just move that out of the way. And we're going to use spray glue. Now this is the original material. And even though I've cleaned it a bit, I can't say I have any great confidence that this will go back on and look good. So what I'm going to use instead of that, although I have it as a backup, is some vinyl. This is marine vinyl, very thin in terms of, you know, the width of the vinyl itself, so it should do the job. And we're going to use a spray adhesive to put it in place. Now the fixative, I'm going to only put on an edge here first and put this on, because when you spray it on both the back of the vinyl and on the metal, you can't reposition it. There are some spray adhesives you can use that you can reposition, but you don't want to use those because they won't hold in the long run. In fact, they even say on the can not to be used for automotive headliners. So I was going to use LePage's blue. They make a blue and a gray spray adhesive. The gray is the one you don't want to use. The blue was the one I was going to use. I couldn't find it. So what I've ended up with here is 3M, and this is called Super 77. And this is an adhesive where you spray it on both the back of the vinyl and on the metal. Let it cure to the point where it's tacky for about a minute, and then you put the two together. And that's why I'm only going to do the edge first to make sure I get it aligned, so that then I can spray the rest and put it on. So 3M Super 77, and it's got an adjustable nozzle on the top. You can actually change the direction of your spray so you can go to a wider or narrower spray. So 14 bucks, and if it works, it'll be well worth it. Okay, so I've cut my piece of vinyl to just overlap by about 3/4 of an inch around the edges, and just to explain why I'm only going to put glue on one side to start with, because I can't really reposition it after. What that's going to allow me to do is to put the glue on that side of the plate and that part of the vinyl, and then with this positioned where I want it to end up, I can pretty much, I'm simulating it here of course, but I will then have it in place on where it's not glued, and then I will set it down on top so that the glue will set on that side, and it'll be in the position, final position I want it to be in, so that when I let that dry to the point where it's not going to come apart, then I will lift up this side, spray the glue down on both sides, get it to tack after about a minute, and then put it down. And then that way I don't have to worry about needing to reposition the vinyl in case I got a wrinkle in it or it didn't go down properly or something like that. So that's the plan of attack, and we'll see how it works out. Actually, what I should show you I've decided to do is I had this extra piece of wood sitting in my shop, so I've moved the sawhorses closely together, positioned everything exactly where I want it, put this heavy piece of wood over, and rolled the foam back, or the vinyl back. So now when I spray on here and spray on the vinyl and I know it's tacky, I can just flip that piece over. It'll be in exactly the position I want it to be in, and then when it dries I can do the other side. So just that's my kind of overspray guard and positioner to make sure everything stays in place. Okay, so I folded it over once the glue was tacky and put it in place, and I used another piece of wood, to smooth it out to make sure that it was flat. I did that a few times, and then now the issue is to come down to this corner where this plastic clip is that rolls over, and to trim that with an X-Acto knife or just a sharp knife blade to make sure that the vinyl's cut off right at the edge here so that this piece can then flip up. And when that part's done, the plastic at the top is secure, and I know that that will fit properly. Then I'll glue the rest of it. Okay, so now that that first edge is down, what you'll see is that my vinyl is attached to about there, and I have my edge straight and everything's fitting the way I want it to. So now I will go ahead and apply the glue on this side of the vinyl in the middle and let it get tacky and put it down, and then do the edge like I did on that side so that those plastic sliders are in place. And then, you know, we can come along and trim it all down and make sure that the edges that roll over have a little extra glue we're going to hold in place. Okay, so that pretty much came out as well as I could have hoped. It's nice and flat. It's glued in place. I'm letting the glue dry now. Then what I'll do is the plastic edges are now where they need to be. Then I'll come along and trim some more off this edge down here and fold it under and glue it on. And we'll do the edges all the way around by spraying glue on the back side. And then you can see there's a bit of an outline here where the indent is supposed to be where you put the plastic insert for your fingers for it to glide forward and backwards. So I'll then, once it's all dry, I'll cut that out, inlay a piece inside there, and then put the plastic piece in, so you should be able to see it in its completed form in the next video, in the next part of this video. Okay, so we've trimmed up the edges and folded them over. Made a few little cuts on the corners to make sure everything snugged up underneath tightly, and then cut out the insert. Took another piece of vinyl and cut it fit, put it in with the same glue, and popped the plastic handle back in place. And so now we have the finished headliner done in vinyl. And I still have to do a little taping on the back side here where the edge is folded over. I'm going to put some cloth tape. I'm going to glue it as a strip along here. These are rivets that it's covering, just kind of as an added precaution. But it's now ready to go back in. Once I do that, it's ready to go back in the car. And so I'll post this video, and then I will get back to work on the sliders. And when those rails are done and functioning, I'll post that video. So this is the replacement of the sunroof liner in vinyl for the '88 Lincoln Mk VII.